But Stanley Kubrick wanted the audience to not like Jack Nicholson from the beginning. Now, I will say this. We've had so many snow days. And I was trying to watch these movies, and I have not connected with a character so intensely as Mr. Torrance.
Yeah, man, that's up. That's up.
I'm sitting there going, I get it.
Well, no, see.
Lights, camera, and action. Welcome to the I Remember Liking That Movie podcast. Remember those childhood movies you loved? We're going to watch them again and find out if they're still as amazing as you remember. Let's get ready to join Anna and Jimmy as they go back and watch those movies you remember being oh so awesomely good. Horror movies that scared. Comedy movies that dared.
Damn!
And action movies so preposterously ludicrous that they defied the laws of common sense. Now, here's your hosts, Anna Santos and Jimmy Coates.
Welcome to the I Remember Liking That Movie podcast. And tonight we are going over The Shining from 1980. Before we do anything, I just want to go over something. It's kind of might give away my feelings on this movie. It was nominated for nothing for the Oscars.
Well, that's some bullshit.
Nothing. The actual winners of the 53rd, I believe it was Ordinary People.
Oh, okay.
Not a bad movie, but Coal Miner's Daughter, The Elephant Man, Raging Bull, Tess. Good movies, but like nothing for music, nothing for cinematography.
That's some bullshit.
Nothing for directing, nothing for best actor, nothing for best actress. And yeah, like not even a nomination.
I mean, I get it and I don't.
Yeah. Well, I think you know where I'm going with this movie.
There's always been kind of a prejudice or a bias against
horror movies. Yeah.
Horror movies.
Yeah.
They're not considered, and especially like in the beginning of film, it was entertain me. Then it started to become entertain me with a message. Then it became give me a message. And then eventually we got back to, hey, entertain me.
Yeah.
Like
give me some boobies.
Yeah.
Give me some gore.
Give me something. Like just make me entertained. Make me walk out of there and go, God, that was crazy.
Don't make me think.
Don't exactly do the thinking for me. Did we freeze?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, we're back.
Year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, at this time, we were definitely in the give me a message. There always had to be a message.
Yeah.
And apparently they weren't paying attention because there was a definite message in this movie.
Yeah.
Thinking about it after I watched it, I was like, well, shit. No wonder this movie always made me so uncomfortable and very like, oh God. And it put me on edge. I'm like, I get it now. I get it.
Well, let's go over a couple things before we get to our first initial thoughts. Let's go over some taglines. Iconic terror from the #1 best-selling writer.
I don't know how tagliney that is, but it's a nice piece of information.
This boy feels things no child should feel.
That's
Sees things no human being should see. He has a power and there is no escape.
That's not a tagline.
No. The tide of terror that swept America is here. It's for United Kingdom.
That's pretty good.
Masterpiece of modern horror.
That's just a review quote.
The horror is driving him crazy.
The what now is driving him crazy?
The horror.
The horror?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know
Not
if we
the
should
horror.
I don't know if we should talk about the woman in the bathtub like that.
He came as a caretaker, but this hotel had its own guardians who'd been there a long time.
If you take off the last part of been there a long time,
yeah, that
is a great tagline.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's take a look, and I'll share this. Bum, bum, bum,
Dun,
bum.
dun.
I was planning on watching the other ones, and I did not get to see anything but this.
Which
I was
other
so
ones?
pissed. I was going to watch Doctor Sleep.
Oh,
I was going to watch the TV series Shining. I had it all in
which is available on Apple TV, by the way.
and Microsoft
And Microsoft too?
TV. Yeah,
Oh,
for $9 or something.
I didn't check the price on. I didn't get around to watching it.
Okay, so The Shining. Oh wait, I want to see some of those. The Shining had a
Mhm.
budget. I like being surprised, but between 15 and 19 million dollars.
Okay,
So that's
I can
that's
see that.
pretty big for back then. But I can, just that hedge maze. I mean,
The
I'm pretty
hedge
sure they
maze?
didn't the hedge maze.
All of the aerial shots that would have
Oh,
cost a pretty fucking penny.
and I'm pretty sure they didn't go, oh, we're in luck. We found this hotel that has the hedge maze you want exactly. That was built from the ground up. So The Shining. There we go. It's domestic 45, international. So 40. So it was profitable. 19 million. It
Mm.
made some money. Because if we remind everybody, back then the marketing was nowhere near what it is today.
No, you would
No.
have had some TV commercials, but
Yeah.
mostly it would have literally been posters, maybe some radio spots, but you were not having the kind of like
No,
campaigns that you have today.
they relied on a lot of word of mouth
Also trailers.
and trailers. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So before we do our initial thoughts, what am I missing? It's a long movie. Didn't it feel long?
It did not feel long.
No.
It did not feel long. It
it's
felt
rated-
uncomfortable, but not long.
It was rated R. Yes, very. Yeah, we'll get to that. Okay, let us watch our trailer watch.
Mhm.
When we come back, we'll give our initial thoughts. You're not the trailer. So before we go next week, what do you remember of The Shining?
I remember so much.
I've seen this a few times.
I have seen this a lot of times.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but I've seen it a few times.
It's been probably about 8 to 10 years. Maybe a little, probably 10 years on the outside. At least 8. I used to watch it on TV whenever it would come on.
Oh yeah, whenever it was one of the world's remote drops.
Oh yeah. As soon as it popped up, I was like, oh, I guess I'm doing nothing for the next 3 hours. Let's go.
Nicholson is fucking incredible.
So good. It's one of the few movies that actually scares me.
Yeah, it's creepy as shit. I wouldn't work there.
See, I would work there. I would work there, but I'm also a little unbalanced.
A little smaller would be. It's really big. And what was the wife's name? Oh my god, she was in Popeye. She was in
Shelley Duvall.
Shelly Duvall.
Yeah.
I've heard Stanley Kubrick's a dick.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, fantastic director. Maybe one of the best of all time, but he's a real dickhead. And he drove her to the point of insanity.
Yeah.
But she was so good. And everything about this movie, the cinematography, the music, the creepiness. I remember. We've been wrong many times, but I have a feeling that we are not this time.
Well, because I have a lot of my friends make fun of me because I love a good scary movie. I love a good horror movie. I love a good thriller. I love a good suspense. Like it's my jam. So whenever they ask me like, what's the scariest movie you've ever seen? I always say The Shining. And they look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm like, no, think about it. Someone you love gets driven mad out in the middle of nowhere where you're cut off from. I was like, that's fucking terrifying. And then they start hallucinating. You start hallucinating. You're all hallucinating.
Yeah.
Or the house.
Yeah, it's just not the crazy guy. Also,
but It's everybody's affected. And then you end up having to run away from, and you're running for your life, and there's no help coming. Terrifying.
Did you ever watch the TV one with the guy from Wings?
No.
They made The Shining as a two-parter. The guy from Wings plays the dad. It's actually it's not as good as this one, but there's more to it. There's more to it.
Oh.
Like it's a lot more book in the, and I've read the book, the Stephen King book. I know Stephen King hates this movie.
I mean,
Kubrick did take liberties, but he took all the best liberties in the best way.
Yeah. I mean, they always do that. Okay,
they always do that. The miniseries was actually pretty good. I remember it being good. I have not seen that movie in a very long time either.
Well, now I want to know where I can see it. This is, oh my God. This is interesting. I'm looking at images of the TV series.
Yeah, for a TV movie, it was pretty good.
Oh man, I want to watch this now. Okay.
All right, well, let's take a look at the trailer. Official trailer 1980. All right, let's make this a big one. Oops, my bad.
I don't suppose they told you anything in Denver about the tragedy we had up here during the winter of 1970? I hired a man named Charles Grady as the winter caretaker. So from what I've been told, I mean, he seemed like a completely normal individual. But at some point during the winter, he must have suffered some kind of a complete mental breakdown. He ran amok and killed his family with an axe.
Well, you can rest assured, Mr. Ullman, that's not going to happen with me.
That's right.
Mom, do you really want to go and live in that hotel for the winter?
Sure I do. It'll be lots of fun.
The only thing that can get a bit trying up here during the winter is the tremendous sense of isolation.
Is there something bad here?
I fear you will have to deal with this matter in the harshest possible way.
I do that. I killed you with Danny.
You did this to me. Didn't you?
I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains. Here's Johnny.
That is a fucking great trailer. That is a great trailer.
I cannot wait. It looks so good. Still looks so good. Can I tell you, for a while, I think it was me and my brother-in-law, we had this weird thing where all of a sudden I would put my little finger up and it'd be like, Redrum, Redrum, Redrum. He'd be like, stop being creepy.
So what do you think? What is your prediction?
I think I'm still going to love it, and I think it's still going to creep me out. I think I'm still going to be very uncomfortable watching it and like have a little sigh of relief when it's done. I'm so confident that I'm going to like it that I did get the 4K of The Shining. Oh my.
With special features and stuff like that. I don't know what's on there, but maybe I'll report it. And not only am I going to do that, I'm also going to watch Dr. Sleep on 4K. And it also has the 30 some odd minutes added to the director's cut. And
wow.
I totally forgot about the miniseries until I just remembered as we were talking. I'm going to try to find that and watch that.
It is going to be a Stephen King week for you.
Well, we're supposed to be just get pounded this weekend and this week of snow. They're calling up to anywhere from 20 to 40 centimeters.
Fantastic.
In the next 24 hours here. And
we're getting a little less than you. I think they're calling, like, the max that they're calling for down here is about 20 centimeters over the weekend.
It's a lot for there.
It is a lot. Like, when I was shoveling snow today, I was like,
yeah, it's bullshit.
How long has it been since we've had over a foot of snow? It's been forever.
Yeah, I remember the last time because we had one winter that was ridiculous, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like we've had snowfalls, but then usually the next day it's like 6 degrees and everything melts.
Yeah, for a few years now, I've said like this is some bullshit. I got a snowblower, but what a perfect time to watch fucking The Shining, Doctor Sleep, and then Doctor Sleep again. I don't know if I can watch all of them between now and Thursday, but I'm going to try. I'll start with The Shining first, and then work my way.
I'm gonna see if I can find The Shining this series because I have never seen that.
Yeah, I have, and I remember it being really, really good. Again,
I'm gonna see if I can watch that.
Oops.
You heard them. Movie time. Let's all go to the lobby and get ourselves a treat, and then watch a classic kick-ass movie from whenever the one we're about to watch was made.
All right, my initial thoughts. This movie was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
This movie, and I watched it on my 4K on my big TV and everything. The cinematography was awesome. The music was creepy and awesome. The direction, he's apparently it was a mental case, but fuck could he direct? And the performances by Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall were amazing. Like this is a near perfect movie. There were a couple inconsistencies with the only one that really caught my eye is when he was talking to the guy about The Shining and he had some chocolate. And then in one scene, it was gone off his face. That was it. And there might have been more, but I was so into the movie that if there was, I didn't notice it.
One issue I had was with the Foley because a lot of footsteps were wrong. Like it's not even that. And some of the stuff, like when he's riding his big wheel, it's timed incorrectly. So I'm like, what the fuck? He's on carpet. That sounds shouldn't be happening.
Were you watching on VHS?
No. No, I was not. But it was just a few like Foley issues. But other than that, I was like, I mean, for a movie from 1980, that shit's old. That shit's old.
Yeah, forget nostalgic. This was alien to me. Like, I do kind of remember a lot of it. Actually, some of the bowls that they were using and shit, and some of the when she was in the kitchen and all that. Like, I noticed a couple things from like my childhood,
of course,
but a lot of it was like that's way before I could
it's before you would have noticed a bowl or a plate.
But yeah, the Jack Nicholson, talk about fucking creepy.
So fucking creepy. But it's funny because watching this and like now, because I'm like, I never picked up on this before, but I'm like, he was always like his character is always just a little off center.
Yep.
But you don't pick up on it because it is very subtle leading up to it. And you kind of hear and you're like, oh, well, like when I was younger, you kind of believe the bullshit story about how the kid dislocates his shoulder. But then as you're watching it now and you're watching him in the interview and you're just seeing the stuff happen, you're like, the fuck?
Well, Stanley Kubrick purposely tried to make Jack Nicholson's character very unlikable so that there was no, which is different than the book because the book, he does have a lot of redeeming characteristics and he is a victim and you do see it and feel it. And in the TV movie, I think it portrays that a bit more, but Stanley Kubrick wanted the audience to not like Jack Nicholson from the beginning. Now, I will say this. We've had so many snow days. And I was trying to watch these movies and I have not connected with a character so intensely as Mr. Torrance.
Yo, man, that's fucked up. That's fucked up.
I'm sitting there going, I get it.
Well, no, see, you know what? Because there was a big giant hotel that Mr. Torrance was hanging out in, and he was in a room that once he started to go crazy, he was like, "Don't come in here if you hear typing." And then he starts randomly typing, and I'm like, "Sir, do not waste your typer ribbon and paper like that. You can't get out to get more." But anyways, No, there was.
Oh, when he was when he was losing it and he was confused and he was dreaming and he was spaced out and lost, and she comes in telling him that it wasn't him that choked his son. There's someone in the house running around the house, and then that silliness of a question snaps him out. But he's like, "Are you out of your fucking mind?" I'm like, he played the douchebag, insane person. I perfectly.
No, see, that's the really great thing, because you kind of see the relationship between in the very first scenes. You see how the relationship is set up between Jack and Wendy. And you see how the roles are kind of set up. And you see, like, he has this arrogance about him and this weird, like, kind of, he seems like the kind of guy who'd be like, I'm an artiste. And you're just like, you're already like setting my teeth on edge. I don't like this. And then he hears this horrific story about this like murder suicide thing that happened at the hotel like 10 years before. And he's like, yeah, I'm cool with it. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, no horror, no nothing. He keeps that smarmy, like, interview smile on his face. And I'm like, oh, I get it. I get it. You're already either a narcissist or a psychopath. And the haunted hotel just brings it out of you.
Oh, and that's one of the great things. As he starts out like that, the movie, he just dials it up.
You see the build.
Yeah.
You see the build, and he just becomes a little more every single scene. And you're just like, God, it's subtle in the beginning. And then he just goes batshit. And you're like, oh, fuck, this is like fucked up. You can't go anywhere. Roads are out. Anyways.
And Shelley Duvall was great. She played the mom, the wife, and then she played like, well, the final girl, I guess you can say.
But she's final girling it.
As she could scream, I'll give her that. But there was purpose for that scream. Like, it was very intense, the moments. Yeah. And no, she was great too.
The only thing with Shelley Duvall is sometimes
the smoking.
No, the smoking
right in front of her kid. Right at the breakfast table.
It was 1980.
I'm like, now I remember that.
Oh, see, we were a house of non-smokers when I was a kid. Although it's funny because every time I go to a doctor's appointment with my dad, and if the doctor says, has he ever smoked? My dad is the first one to say no. And I'm like, we have pictures of you smoking cigarettes in the living room on the couch that we had up until last year. What are you talking about? He's like, I never smoked. The smoking, yeah. But also, if in that scene, she's reading Catcher in the Rye. So I'm sitting there and I was like, oh shit, are you the intellectual in the couple? Is this all his insecurities? And that's why he's such a shitty person. I happened to notice it and I was like, oh, Catcher in the Rye.
See, I thought it was her trying to connect with him, to try to.
Nobody reads Catcher in the Rye to connect. Okay. That I'm going to get a lot of angry messages for this from very interesting people, but Catcher in the Rye is a shit book. Well, I hate that book.
In 1980, it's not like she could turn Netflix on.
But also it was something, well, no, she wouldn't have turned Netflix on. However, she would have gotten out her Betamax and watched a movie. But no, Catcher in the Rye is the quintessential, because you all had to read it in high school, but it was usually studied in university, and it was very much like an intellectuals thing. And I read it when I think it was in high school. I didn't have to read it for school. I read it for fun. And I was like, why did I read that? That was a shitty book. But people can wax on and on about it for days and days. So I was like, interesting that they chose that book to read. Like, that was the book that they chose. I was like, interesting. I wonder what the thought process behind that was. Anyway.
And I will say this too, even the supporting actors, Grady and I can't remember the bartender's name. I said it repeatedly. Anyways.
No, I'm going to get this. Damn it. Lloyd.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
It's a great kind of, because even Oh God, who was it that
And
played the
for
manager?
oh yeah, should have this up.
Oh God, who? No, I'm trying to remember. Like, what the was he Stuart Ullman? Whoever the hotel manager was, that guy. He was just generic enough,
Yeah.
but not generic enough. You know what I mean? Like he was still distinctive enough that you remembered him, but he was so generic and it was so customer service generic. Like, let's tell you the great things about the and then he gets appropriately sad when telling about the big murder suicide. Then he's like, I just gotta let you know, because yeah, it's no problem for me and my wife. We'll be fine. I'm like, did he actually tell his wife?
And I like Scatman Crothers.
Yep.
As Halloran, but what a waste. He was so useless.
He should have lived. Okay. He should have lived. But unfortunately, all you needed him for, he did his duty and he got that I don't even know what to call it.
He went through so much trouble to help that boy.
Yes.
Flew
he
all the way to Colorado. Drove through a snowstorm in a Bobcat.
He got the Bobcat to them. That was his purpose.
Yeah, I guess that was his purpose. Yeah.
And once he had achieved that,
and that
the storytellers were like, we don't need him no more. He doesn't get to live.
Because I almost forgot it. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. He's not. Because I was like trying to put together, because I remember in Dr. Sleep, Danny talks to him. And then I'm like,
I thought for some reason he was going to stay alive.
That's what I mean. I'm like, oh, he lives, but I think he just gets hurt. And then Jack Nicholson comes out and just.
He didn't even really come out. He just swung first and then followed the axe. And I was like, oh.
And then I remembered in Dr. Sleep, he contacts him and takes him out of the place he wants to be so he can have conversations with them. I'm like, oh yeah, he dies. So yeah, so he didn't. Yeah, but you're right. He did bring the.
Do you know what I just realized we didn't do? Or are we still going to do them? Because we've been talking about this movie like for a while. The reviews.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's right too. Okay,
I
remember. Like I actually, while we're talking, I'm like, I know I'm forgetting something.
Well, no, because I was like, oh, we'll do initial thoughts, and then, but I realized I'm like, we've been talking about this for a while, so we should probably see what other people have to say about it before we really get into what we want to say about it.
All right. Well, I'm gonna share it.
What are we starting with?
Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
I'm going to go on a limb here. Yeah, 2 hours and 22 minutes. Rated R. Horror mystery thriller. And it has 106 reviews, coming in at 83%. And 250,000 plus audience members give it 93%.
Makes a lot of sense.
So if you want to start with a good one, I'll look for a bad one. How do you not like this movie?
Ooh. Ooh, this one's good. Zofia Wojcicka from Nerdspin. With an out of this world cast, The Shining remains a cult film even after 44 years, and it's ideal for a cold winter evening.
Kubrick sabotages his own thesis in the most knuckle-headed way conceivable. We can't be charged as accomplices in a horror when there is no horror. And I don't really think I wouldn't consider this a horror movie. Well, it's a ghost haunting, whatever.
It may be a supernatural movie, but also at the same time, I would almost consider it a suspense movie.
Yeah.
Like it's more suspense. Like, yes, there is like, hey, the hotel's haunted. But because of the way the characters are developed, you already know something's wrong with Jack at the very beginning of the movie before anybody's even gotten to the hotel. So you're like,
yeah,
I see what this is. Let's see. Oh, The Shining might be one of the most accessible classics to new viewers of today to understand why it is, in fact, one of the greatest and most influential horror movies of all time. The ending is still mind-blowing after all these years. That's from Manuel Salmbent from MSB Reviews.
David Denby, New York Magazine, Vulture. There are a few terrific thrills and some eerie moments of dislocation that only Kubrick could achieve, but most of the movie is unfelt, unscary, and bizarrely heavy-handed. It's the first pompous haunted house movie.
Interesting. I don't think this movie was meant to be scary.
No, it's disturbing. It's
Yes, 100%. But I don't think you're supposed to be getting, like, I think there was maybe one real jump scare, but everything else you can kind of see coming. They set up the shots and they're like, we just want you to be all fucked up about this.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot more better positives here.
Yeah. Oh, this one's not bad. Ian Nathan from Empire Magazine. Ostensibly a haunted house story, it manages to transverse a complex world of incipient madness, spectral murder, and supernatural visions, and also makes you jump.
Scott Weinberg, efilmcritic.com. Sorry, I'm taking a good one here. He gave it a 9 out of 10, but he says it does stray from the source material, but still a creepy classic.
Oh, Roger Ebert.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Roger Ebert is here, and he said the movie is not about ghosts, but about madness and the energies it sets loose in an isolated situation primed to magnify them. I totally agree with Roger Ebert.
Yeah. Gary Arnold, Washington Post. I can't recall a more elaborately ineffective scary movie.
Well then.
All right, IMDb. I can go on the limb and say this one's at least a 7 something. Oh no, 8.4, 1.2 million. Jesus Christ.
Wow.
It comes in at 8.4. That's pretty good.
That's very good.
If you want to start with 10,
I will start with 10.
Ooh, there's a lot to choose from. Holy
There's
shit.
so much. Like so movies, films, reviews, Inc. That's a lot of plurals. A masterpiece of psychological horror, which actually I think is a very apt description. There's a lot of people mentioning masterpiece.
Yeah, especially for 10. Here's Fella Shibby. The best creepy horror movie involving isolation and eeriness. Also, it captured the fear of the unseen in one of the best way. I agree.
Let me see for 8 out of 10. Ooh, Stanley Kubrick's epic nightmare of horror. Interesting.
This one says Mark Murphy 561. It's just a little dated. It is severely dated. But if you really want to see, this was probably filmed in the mid 1979 because it came out in 1980.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a time warp, but it's a fun time warp. But it still accomplishes, like, this was before my time, and it was still as creepy as shit.
I enjoyed the creepiness of it. Like, it is very dated, obviously, but the center of what it is still relevant to this day. Arthur Tefero for 6 out of 10. He says The Shining, better than average horror satire. And I was like, satire? I don't think this is a satire, my friends.
No.
But thank you.
Kenja says it's Kubrick's worst. It's hard to believe the man who made Paths of Glory, great film, and Dr. Strangelove, great film, could have created this nonsense. 5 out of 10.
4 out of 10. We've got So Boyle 41910, who said, loved this movie until I finally read the novel. And I feel like that can definitely happen a lot. But I also loved the TV show Under the Dome until I read the novel.
Yeah.
And then I hated the novel for half of it. And then I loved it once I got past the first half.
See, I like both. I like both Under the Dome and the book and the TV show. Well, not the last season or half the last season.
No, I think the writer's strike
weird.
fucked it up and it got weird and they were doing some. Yeah. And I was like, oh, the first season was so perfect.
And I don't know who warned me, but they did say, I went into this movie, I believe I read the book first because I was a huge Stephen King fan, or I still am. But I went in knowing and waiting like that it was not going to be like the book. And it's not like the book. The TV movie is a lot like the book.
Okay.
I still don't know if it was good or not. I just...
See, I'm one of those people, I will read the book after I've watched something that's based on it. Like Haven was based on the Stephen King novella, Colorado Kid. So I got the novella and I was like, well, let me read that because I really like the TV show. And I was like, these two things are very different. But I liked it.
Yeah, this is Koozie says it's emptiness disguised as art. 3 out of 10.
Dexter 3 says this film is terrible and overrated because it's Kubrick. 2 out of 10.
Okay, there's a Chris Au, a method of torturing your enemies. Just sit them down and make them watch this. Manchester, England, 2004, a real chore to sit through. Scott and Muslim, the funniest comedy of 1980.
Jesus.
Nick Milashik, incoherent, lifeless hack filmmaking, horrible storytelling. And Chin East FGD, probably the most overrated movie of all time.
Damn.
Wow.
They really hated it. Like a lot. I mean, I get it. Like I can see why. This film is not made for everybody. Like I feel like that should really be clear to people.
All right, well, let's go through this film. Now that thanks to Anna for remembering that we missed a whole segment.
Well, the initial thoughts started turning into more in-depth thoughts, and I was like, we should probably hit those reviews before we really go into it.
And the plot is not huge. The synopsis is not huge. The plot's very simple. It's a very simple plot. There's nothing, and how he got 2 hours and 22 minutes out of that plot. And I remember going to do something. I had to pause it, and I'm like, I thought I was just 15 minutes in. I was like 40 minutes in.
Yeah. I had to pause it at one point, and then I kind of looked down, and I was like, oh, I'm already halfway through. Like, it didn't even occur to me that I was already halfway through. And I was like, oh, okay, this is very watchable.
Which is great when it comes to watching a movie.
Oh, God, yes.
That's a good sign. All right. Jack Torrance takes a winter caretaker position at the remote Overlook Hotel in the Colorado Rocky Mountains, which closes every winter season. I like how they explain why they have to do it.
Yes.
Because it's not feasible to keep that highway open.
It costs entirely. It's a 25-mile stretch of road. It's just it's too much.
Too much snow. After his arrival, manager Stuart Ullman informs Jack that a previous caretaker, Charles Grady, killed his wife, 2 young daughters, and himself in a hotel a decade prior. In Boulder, Jack's son, Danny, has a premonition and seizure. Jack's wife, Wendy, tells the doctor about a past incident when Jack accidentally dislocated Danny's shoulder during a drunken rage. That's so 1980.
The drunken rage was so 1980.
And dislocating kids' shoulders. And
too. Well, it's funny because she says, well, you know how it is. It's an action you've done all the time when you've like grabbed a kid at the park or whatever. And I was like, girl, you were not dislocating your child's arm every time. Like that is, if you're pulling hard enough, especially just because the kid knocked over some papers.
Yeah.
And you're pulling his arm hard enough to dislocate his arm. Why are you still with that man?
Yeah. Well,
but
she's like, but he was drunk.
Drinking. He stopped drinking that day. It was the last day he had a drink. And I was like, don't trust that man.
Jack has been sober ever since. Before leaving for the seasonal break, the Overlook's head chef, Dick Halloran, informs Danny of a telepathic ability the two share, which he calls shining. Halloran tells Danny that the hotel also has a shine due to its residue from unpleasant past events and warns him to avoid 237.
Mm-hmm.
And we get I do like how they have to take them all around the hotel and they have to show them. The place was fucking huge. Those fireplaces.
It was ginormous.
Oh my God. They do not make shit like that anymore.
No, they don't. And it makes me so sad because I've always said my ultimate goal in life is to own a house or a castle, whatevs, with a fireplace I can walk right into.
And they had multiple.
They had multiples. And I was like, oh, I just want to light a fire. I just want to light a fire.
Like when he's sitting at the table and doing his writing and that fire's going, that looks like half a tree. That
100%. It was beautiful. It was perfect. So beautiful, wonderful hotel. it really brings home how big everything is and how much room there is in there. Because they're like, and here's, the club, and here's the ballroom, and and we're still going, and this is the storage room where apparently you get to eat whatever the fuck you want that's in there, and here's the meat freezer.
And the chef was like, you could there's so much food here that you could have a different thing. You wouldn't repeat the menu ever.
But also he's like, a 15 rib roast. I was like, there are only 3 people there.
Yeah.
They're going to eat that entire thing for an entire week.
Yeah.
It was a lot. But I was very excited because I was like, I would love to cook in that kitchen.
Yeah. A month passes and Danny starts having frightening visions, including of the murdered Grady twins. Okay, in Grady's defense, if those were my girls, those creepy fucking kids, I'd kill them too.
No, you wouldn't.
Those kids were fucking creepy. Come play with us, Danny.
Because they're dead. You're not seeing the live kids. I'm sure the live kids were not creepy.
I'm pretty sure that's
the
what
dead
they were
ones,
like.
yeah, super creepy.
Play with us forever. I'm like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, no, that's weird. But they're dead. Like, that's where the creep comes in. Sure, they were perfectly fine when they were alive.
I also read that this was Danny's, the kid who played Danny. This was his first movie. I don't know if he did any other movies. Stanley Kubrick, who didn't mind, pushing Scatman, the chef, he said sometimes he had to do 150 takes. That after this, he went and did a movie for Clint Eastwood, who's notorious for one takes. If he likes your take, that's it. And he did a take, and Clint Eastwood said, "Good, cut, next scene." That Scatman, he actually had tears coming out of his eyes because of the bullshit that he went through, The Shining.
Yeah.
But anyways, he drove Jack Nicholson nuts, drove poor Shelly Duvall nuts.
Yes.
But he was so protective of Danny that because Danny thought he was making a drama, he had special dolls made so that when the mom there was really bad things and she was like running with them, that he was not part of it. He was very protective not to freak this kid out, which I thought was kind of cool.
It is nice to hear when, kids are actually treated like kids on set.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't happen often enough.
Especially for like someone like Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah. But you don't have to be an extra asshole to the adults. Like, you don't have to.
No, but he is a perfectionist and he gets results.
No, don't get me wrong. Gorgeous movie. But you don't have to drive people to a mental health episode.
No.
Like, you don't have to do that to get perfection. This Kubrick. I'm an artiste.
This could have been this was him. He was Jack. This was more of a biography.
100%.
Meanwhile, Jack's mental health deteriorates. He suffers from writer's block, is prone to violent outbursts, and has dreams of killing his family. Yeah.
It was the escalation to that was great.
It was fantastic. It was great.
Because it was like minute, like really small incremental increases. So it's just like, and a little bit more crazy. And let's just turn up the dial a little bit more. So he starts saying things that are a little out of pocket. And poor Wendy Torrance is just like weird.
Yeah.
But not super weird. And then she's like, do you want a sandwich? Or do you want to come for dinner? And he's like, fuck off. And she's like, okay, when can I read it? And that's when he does the, if you see me typing, pa, 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 don't come in. And I was like, yo, man.
I can't wait to use that on my wife.
Oh, dude.
She probably won't
wait for her to hit you.
Yeah. You'll see me on the next one. I'll have a black eye. Yeah, that's when you'll know when I try it.
Yeah, I'll be like, you told her not to come in when you were typing, right? And he was like, yeah, god damn it. But anyways, it frightens her and it makes her really uncomfortable, but she's still trying to be like super happy because I think she was so used to living with drunken, angry Jack that she was like, oh, okay, I'll do that. And I'm like, oh my God, she's got so much like battered woman syndrome. Like I'm like, how much fear was she living in before they came to this hotel? And why would she agree to go to like a hotel in the middle of nowhere does she really think that it's just the drinking and then the house is like making everything amplified? And I was like, this is a cautionary tale for abusive relationships.
One of the things I noticed as well is that Jack didn't overly fight this.
No.
He was confused sometimes.
Yes.
But he didn't. It didn't take a lot to push him to become this homicidal maniac.
He never looked disgusted.
No,
he only looked bewildered.
Yeah.
Like, where did that come from?
He did have that one dream where he felt bad, like because he's murdered. He had a dream of murdering the two of them. So yeah.
Yeah. That was his one moment of
for the most part, he wasn't like, I can't do it. Maybe we should leave. And no,
he was never he never also communicated to his wife, like, I think there's something wrong with me.
Yeah, no.
No, he was just like, I mean, I guess this is normal. Whatevs. I wonder what my next dream about killing my wife and kid is going to be like.
Danny gets lured to room 237 by unseen forces, and Wendy later finds him with signs of physical trauma for which she blames Jack. Jack sulks in the ballroom where ghostly bartender Lloyd entices him back to drinking. Yeah, these were all good scenes.
Ghostly booze.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, you're like, he's not actually drinking.
No.
But he's just being led to believe or influenced by ghostly bartender Lloyd.
Yeah.
That he is drinking, and then he just becomes his drunk asshole self.
Yeah. Well, what does he say? He does say, like, I'd sell my soul for a beer.
And he does.
And he does. Yeah.
Well, more accurately, he gives it away for free.
Yeah, pretty much. Wendy tells him that Danny was attacked by a crazy woman in 237. That's one of my favorite scenes. When he snaps at him, he's like, are you out of your fucking mind?
Well, also she comes and like she's so frazzled and so just like out of it and scattered. And then she doesn't even acknowledge that she accused him of choking his own kid.
Yeah.
So I'm like, don't get me wrong. I understand being testy. But your wife is obviously having some sort of weird breakdown because she realizes there's someone else in the hotel who just tried to kill her kid. And I was like, man, this is not going to end up good.
I love the conversation. The dialogue is fantastic. The conversation. And I like how he's telling Lloyd about how he, dislocated his kid's shoulder and, and she never forgave him for it.
Yeah, I'm like, I would never forgive you for that. I would also probably tell officers that I didn't know where you had gone. You had just disappeared one day.
Jack investigates and encounters a hideous female ghost in the bathroom. She wasn't hideous at first.
No.
Because you got boobies and you got full frontal.
Full frontal.
And full back.
Yeah, there was full nudity. There was full nudity for that.
As
woman.
Joyous as I was for a second, that fucking creepy music was so like kind of like something bad's gonna happen.
There was honestly, I think the creepy music kept me at a pretty solid like low stress level. Like I was stressed, but just not super stressed through most of this movie. Just because of that movie, just because of the music, because at certain points, like they would start adding in extra sound effects, and I'd be like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah.
Something's about to go down again.
Because even the beginning, like I have a giant TV and I watch it on 4K and that cinematography, but that music was so...
The music makes your stomach drop. It makes you think something... I'm like, are they going to crash right now? Like it already puts you on edge right at the very beginning as you're watching these beautiful, absolutely stunning settings like go by and you're just like, oh my God. And then there are mountains and you're like, oh... And I was like, this is also really driving home the like isolation and the loneliness.
Oh yeah.
Because you only see like one car that drives past them. Other than that, it's just this one car on the road alone.
Yeah.
And there's nothing but nature for almost the entire ride there. And like the entire part of the ride that we're following. And it really kind of drills home like there's nothing. There's no one. They're solitary. That's it. And you're just like, I mean, don't get me wrong. It seemed very attractive to me. I was like, that sounds like the perfect winter. Let's do that. But yeah, no, it really set up like just how alone they were going to be. And it was gorgeous.
So he's making out with the ghost when she's sexy, and then she turns into not sexy at all.
She
Gross.
ages. She's like
But parts of her
decomposing.
body's missing. Yeah.
Yeah, she's slimy, like super dead. And then he freaks out and he starts like walking backwards. Also, kudos to Jack for not like just rolling over himself and falling, because there were stairs going into the bathroom. I was very impressed.
Mhm.
And she keeps walking towards him and freaks him out even more. And I was like, this makes me so uncomfortable, because they just kept like, they were giving us full body shots of her like super old and dead. And then it was doing more close-ups, so you could see just how like decomposy she is.
Yeah. But he tells Wendy he saw nothing. He blames Danny for inflicting the bruises on himself and reacts angrily when Wendy suggests leaving the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Danny enters a trance and telepathically contacts Halloran. I loved his room, his bachelor pad down in Florida.
100%.
That's so awesome. That's what I'm gonna have.
His Miami house
with the purple suede couches, the naked women everywhere on the
right
on the
so
pictures.
many. And but it's funny because they're not even like, they're paintings.
They're
paintings.
That was a thing in the 70s. Like, people actually, that was art. Girls with big titties on the wall. What a wonderful time.
I'll take your word for it.
Not at my house.
We had landscapes.
Yeah, I remember we had a ship, but it was like this velvet kind of.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
We didn't have any velvet, just canvas.
Returning to the bathroom, Jack finds it filled with ghostly figures. Oh, returning to the ballroom,
Mhm.
Jack finds it filled with ghostly figures, including waiter Delbert Grady, who urges Jack to correct his wife and child. Yeah, this is where he's like, what do they call you? Because he's calling him Jeeves, because he spilled some stuff on him, and they go to the bathroom to clean it up, and he says Grady, and he's like, you were the caretaker here before,
and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've always been here.
Yeah,
I wasn't the caretaker. I've always been here. Like,
but that's when you get his confusion when he's trying to explain to him to kill his things, and there's a person drops the N-word, which
a lot,
and confuses Jack. He's like, huh?
It's so funny though, because I think I wrote a note and I was like, oh, that's a slur. Oh, look, another one.
But Wendy finds Jack's manuscript written with nothing but countless repetitions of the proverb, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Following the formatting of various different written manuscripts.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I was like, is he writing a script or is he writing a novel? What is he writing? Is that a poem?
This was a great scene too.
Yeah, because she's like super into it, looking at all the pages, and like the horror on her face just keeps building. And she realizes just how nuts her husband is.
Yeah. Maybe he's gone crazy.
Yeah. She's like, I feel like I am no longer safe here with him.
Wendy knocks him unconscious with a baseball bat. Yeah, that whole part with the baseball bat. Give me the bat. Give me the bat.
Yeah.
Not going to hurt you.
All I really wanted for her through this whole thing, I was like, girl, just lock your wrist. Like, lock your and properly swing that bat.
Babe Ruth, that
Don't just like wave it in front with like
because she had her hands on it halfway up. I'm like, you're not gonna,
I was like,
you'll hurt him, but
you'll hurt him, but not enough.
Yeah.
This is not how you defend yourself with a bat. That was my one and only complaint. I'm like, I wanted her to have a firmer grip, even if she didn't take a full swing, because I understand the character. She doesn't want to swing on her own husband. Like, I get that. However, I was like, at least look like you're ready to swing on him if you have to. She did not look, she looked like she was ready to do a song and dance number with the bat as like an accessory. And it was driving me nuts.
Wendy knocks him unconscious with the baseball bat and locks him in the kitchen pantry. But she and Danny cannot leave because Jack previously sabotaged the hotel's two-way radio and Snowcat. Back in their hotel room, Danny says Redrum repeatedly and writes the word in lipstick on the bathroom door. Wendy sees the word in the mirror and realizes that it is actually murder spelled backwards.
And he does all of this while holding a very large knife.
Yes.
which I think is super important because she wakes up and she's got Danny standing above her holding this giant knife. She looks in the mirror and she sees the red rum is actually murder. And it's terrifying.
Jack is freed by Grady and goes after Wendy and Danny with an axe. Danny, yeah, I did read that Jack Nicholson was a volunteer firefighter for quite some time. And when the props people built the door, he tore through it within a second or two. And Shelly Duvall said they went through 60 doors, but after a few of him just plowed, they actually had to make sturdier doors for him.
They were like, we can't use the prop doors anymore that we use for the weak little actors who only have pretty muscles.
Yeah.
This one actually knows how to like axe through a door. So
Danny escapes outside through the bathroom window. Oh, the one scene that it didn't say here, when he's in the room looking at the maze.
Yes.
And looking down, and they're walking, and it just, without even noticing it, it cuts to the actual maze.
Yes.
Was a fantastic shot. And it was fucking huge. Jesus Christ. Built to scale. My God. Danny escapes through the bathroom window, and Wendy fights Jack off with a knife when he tries to break through the door. That's where we get the whole, here's Johnny.
Yep.
Halloran, having flown back to Colorado from his Florida vacation, reaches the hotel in another snowcat. His arrival distracts Jack, who ambushes and murders him in the lobby. Thanks for nothing, Halloran. But I'm wrong. He did bring a snowcat, so
yes. R.I.P. Halloran. He calls ahead to make sure. He's like, hey, what are the weather conditions like? I just flew in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna drive to you guys. So like and oh no, all the roads are closed. I'm gonna need, I think he said I'm gonna need a ski cat. Snowcat. And he's like, yeah, I got one. All right. And then he gets there and then he drives up and then he's like walking down the hall.
Yeah.
And
here's your snowcat.
And axe to the chest. And I was like, no, you're supposed to live at least a little bit longer.
He then pursues Danny into the hedge maze. Wendy runs through the hotel looking for Danny, encountering the ghost and a vision of cascading blood from the elevator, similar to Danny's premonition.
Which is always gorgeous. Every time I see it.
Yeah, it is. In the hedge maze, Danny carefully backtracks to mislead Jack. This was fantastic.
That kid is smart.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that.
I'd
still be running. I'd eventually get tired, sit down, and get hacked up. Oh, I can't go on. Kill me. Jack hides behind a snowdrift. Jack plunges onward without a trail and becomes lost. Danny and Wendy reunite and leave in Halloran's snowcat, leaving Jack to freeze to death in the maze. That shot where it just
classic
and he's just
his face
frozen. Yeah,
his face when he's frozen there is fucking incredible. I love it. It's one of my favorite things.
In a photograph in the hotel hallway, Jack is pictured standing amidst a crowd of party revelers from July 4th, 1921, and it's playing that old 20s big band music. Very creepy. And then that's it. That is our movie. What's your score?
I think this is a buy it. Even if this type of movie is not your jam, the visuals are stunning. The sets are stunning and the performances are really very good. However, I think if you do like kind of like a suspense with a little bit of kind of a supernatural flair to it, this is also really great. And then it can be kind of like a study on abusive relationships and how they can manifest and things like that. And I found it really, really good. The performances were amazing. Yes, there are a few technical issues. The Foley is my biggest issue with this, but that's because my brain really clocks when there are sounds being made that don't match what I'm seeing. My brain really clocks that. So like, for instance, when Halloran comes back, he's wearing rubber boots. But the footstep sounds are dress shoe footsteps on a hard floor. I was like, where the fuck is that sound coming from? And then I was like, oh, is that supposed to be his footsteps? That doesn't make sense. So my brain trips up on those. But overall, it's one of the most stunning movies you'll ever see. it has been super influential in not only film, but also just pop culture in general. Jack Nicholson gives one of his best performances. Shelley Duvall does her like falling into madness really, really great. And that kid is creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
It's a great movie with incredible visuals. And I think it's a fun ride for everybody. And it is very much a classic film that I think anybody who's interested in film and the history of film should watch. And that's what I have to say about that.
All right. Buy it. Yeah, if you remember liking The Shining and haven't seen it, you probably enjoy it more now. I did. It looks so good. It sounds so good. The acting is amazing. I cannot think of any other lunatic other than Jack Nicholson playing this movie.
Ultimate.
I read a quote that Jack Nicholson was kind of pissed that Stanley Kubrick was taking all the credit for making such a great movie, when he was like, hey, we were in the movie too. And he actually said that when he watched Shelley Duvall, he thinks that she's like, that was one of the most demanding and amazing performances from an actor. Yeah, everything about this movie is great. Yes, it has aged, but that helps in the believability that if you go back, this is 1980. There were no cell phones. There were no constant snow removal. They were isolated. And this is a 2.5 hour movie that doesn't feel like 2.5 hour movie because it looks gorgeous. The dialogue is great. The acting is great. I was kind of sad when it was over. I do really want to watch Dr. Sleep and continue because of how good this movie is. Yeah, I say, I bought it. But yeah, I would say buy it. Yeah, this is easy. Yeah. Whether you buy it digitally, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K.
It's an easy buy because regardless, even if you think it's overrated or whatever, like the simple fact is you do have some really incredible performances where you see like Shelley Duvall, like you see her devolving into an unstable just ball of madness. And I'm like, God bless, girl. God bless, because that must have been like I was like, I'm sure by the end of it, she was like, I just got to lay down for like a week. I don't want to talk to nobody because it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, because I also don't think this movie is available readily on a platform, is it? I think
Crave.
Stars. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Crave has it. If you have, I think the Stars, then Crave has it. That's where I watched it. So I was like, ooh, nice.
Yeah, I could easily next winter when it's snowing out and pop this right back in and
for sure.
Yeah, enjoy it.
Yeah.
No, I would buy it.
There's also, I think, with the supernatural kind of element to it, it adds just a level of extraness. So it's not just, a wife or a woman and her child stuck with an abusive husband. There's a reason for his craziness. There's a reason for his madness. And yes, it's ghosts, but whatevs. I mean,
yeah.
Valid reason.
I do believe the TV series one. I'm going to get it. I'm going to watch it. It delves way more into the supernatural because the book delved right into it, where it was minimal in this movie. I think, this is I'd like to say, this is a perfect horror. It is a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece movie.
Yeah.
This is on for our 2025 review. I'm pretty sure this will be in my top 10. Yeah. Unless we watch some really kick-ass movies between now and then. That's usually not the case.
I like that if we're watching some kick-ass ones.
You have to be pretty good to shove this into 11th place.
Yeah. Yeah, right? Yeah. Thinking about that now, I'm like, geez, that would be.
All right.
Anyways.
Well, thank you for coming back to 1980. We have 2 buys for a movie that we agreed is pretty good. Pretty good movie. All right.
I enjoyed it.
Well, thank you for joining us. And until the next movie we remember liking.
Congratulations. You just had one of your childhood movie memories vindicated. Or they just eviscerated it. I don't know. This is a generic one-size-fits-all type of ending to the podcast. So thank you for listening, and please join Anna and Jimmy next time for another episode of the I Remember Liking That Movie podcast. If you dare to go back and watch that movie you remember liking.